Hi everyone. My name is Suvir Bhatia, and I'm currently a student at UC Berkeley's SCED Startup Semester Program, where I'm focusing on entrepreneurship and business innovation. Today, I have the privilege of interviewing Mr. Doug Leeds, where we'll be discussing his entrepreneurial journey, business strategies, and key lessons learned from his career, leading multiple ventures across various industries. All right, then, Mr. Leeds, thank you so much for being here today. To start off, could you please introduce yourself and share a bit about your business ventures, experience, and your role within them?
Yeah, I started off my post-educational career as a lawyer, coming out of law school and practiced law for a few years, and then bounced back and forth between law and a very unsuccessful startup of mine, and then a couple other companies. But I eventually found myself after an acquisition in the legal department of Yahoo. So I worked there for several years and ran all the legal team, and also had product managers because I ran a group called Product Justice, which was giving legal advice to all the business folks who produced all of Yahoo's products globally, and then also solved actual business problems by building stuff. I got a little frustrated, to be honest, still in the legal department. It was after my first couple of years of practicing law, it was never something I wanted to keep doing. And I got a call from my friend who was about to be promoted to be the CEO of Ask.com, used to be Ask Jeeves, asking if I wanted to run product. And you don't get that call a lot as a lawyer. So I jumped at it, and I joined Ask.com and as head of product, but eventually added corporate development, and then bought a company for Ask called Dictionary.com and ended up running Dictionary.com. It was my first CEO job. Ended up taking over of Ask.com itself, and then grew that through various reasons, but including acquisitions. I spent about $600 million on acquisitions. And the company today that we started is called Dotdash Meredith, and it's the largest publisher in the US, digital and print publisher in the US. But even that, I had other properties that are no longer part of it. So Dictionary.com is one, Ask.com is another, but then Daily Beast is another one that's not part of Dotdash now. Anyway, did that for 10 years and decided I wanted to teach and not run companies. So I came to Berkeley and started teaching, which is obviously how we met. But I went back to the corporate world and ran a company called eClub, which was very different than publishing. And we brought food. Actually, I was a customer of it when I was running IAC Publishing, as we call it, Dotdash. Brought food into your office so that your company and your employees could all eat together, kind of like DoorDash for the office. And so I grew that from about 50 million in ARR, annual run rate, to almost just above 90 million. And then the pandemic hit. So 5 years ago, 2 days from now will be the 5-year anniversary of us going from about $92 million in ARR to zero overnight. We lost our entire business. When you bring food to an office and no one is in the office, there's not much business there. So we pivoted and changed the business significantly. I can tell you more if you're interested, and sold it.
All right, great. So obviously you've been a part of many ventures. So if you had to choose one of your favorites or what you would say was the most entrepreneurial venture that you were a part of, what would you say was its key value proposition and what gave it a competitive edge?
Well, I'll pick one. I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's most recent, so it's easier for me to recall the
Yeah.
details if we want to get into it. And this was what I was telling you, the Eat Club. We were serving about 30,000 meals a day. We were making half of those ourselves in a kitchen, so 15,000 meals we were producing a day. And the other 15,000 came from restaurants all over the country. All over the country. We were in LA, we were in the Bay Area, and we were in New York. Um, but when the pandemic hit, no one was going to the office. We had a big challenge on our hands. And that really required some good thinking. We had 900 employees. I would say overwhelming majority of those were people who were working in our kitchens or in our logistics hubs where we did pick pack for the foods. And it was very difficult, but ultimately we had to lay off of that 900 people, 880 people,
Mhm.
and went down to 20 people and really changed the entire business. So what we had built was technology that would allow us to take food from anywhere, bring it together, ship it in one place, and have it delivered at one time, which was a game changer for corporate meal service because, well, they had catering, which was, bring food on site, but all from one place. We offered a menu you could order from, lots of different restaurants. But unlike DoorDash, which did that, the food all came at one time. So if all your colleagues at the office or a DoorDash, you wouldn't be able to eat together because your meal would come and then your friend's meal or your colleague's meal would come 45 minutes later and you're not eating together. So our innovation was to be able to bring everything together, and we built technology to support that. And when the pandemic hit, we were able to use that technology and extend it so that basically we could make any restaurant a cloud kitchen so that it could deliver food to a different location. And ultimately, we built this as a test. A company called, well, we had an investor called Sodexo, and one of their main, actually bigger competitor, the biggest in the field, is a company called Compass Group, and they do food. They run Google's cafes. They run lots of company cafes, but they also run stadium food service. And we were saying, look, stadium's a great example. When there's a game, you serve food. When there's not a game, you have all these kitchens that aren't being used. What if you could use all those kitchens and deliver food to businesses nearby? And the reason you can't do that is because you don't have technology that enables it, but we have that technology. So through some hard work and some retooling, we were able to create this as a SaaS platform that would allow these big companies and wherever they had restaurants to turn them into cloud kitchens. And we eventually sold the business to Compass based on as a SaaS business instead of as a food delivery service.
Just looking back at your journey, what are the biggest lessons you've learned? And also, if you could do it all over again, what would you do differently?
Mm. Well, the first one is pretty easy for me. Biggest lessons I learned were that there are two incredibly important parts of running a business or leadership or building products or whatever. And that's what we call divergent thinking and often known as brainstorming and coming up with ideas, and then narrowing those ideas and making them actionable. And for a good amount of time, I didn't separate those functions. So if someone would come to me with an idea, I would tell them why it worked in some ways and why it didn't work in other ways. And what I realized was that was really stopping innovation, and that you needed to separate these two things and have a really safe space where any idea makes sense and you can just build on it. And then in a separate time, and actually it really helps to be in a separate physical space. So your body just understands that you're going from brainstorming to narrowing. You have that where you start culling down the ideas and making them actionable. But if you try to do that all at one time, where you're working with people and you're saying this idea, no, but I think that we could do this, or no, I think we could do that, then you actually end up not getting to the great ideas. And I didn't realize that until I got some help from some innovators I brought into the company.
Well, yeah, that all of that is really insightful, actually, especially about how you transform the Eat Club was something actually we can apply to every country, and no one really thought of it before. So yeah, I
Thank
mean,
you.
since that's all the time we have, I just want to say thank you, for such an insightful conversation. I am sure entrepreneurs everywhere will learn a lot from hearing about all these insights from your experiences. And yeah, it's been a pleasure talking with you, and thanks again for your time.
Thank you, Sver. Love doing it. Appreciate it.